It's 2022. Women don't want to cook and clean, and men don't want to pay the bills. So how did we get here? Let's talk about it. My name is Sunshine from SunshineSpeaksCoaching.com. I am a life coach, relationship coach. I help people gain understanding and personal growth. I also have my TikTok, which is Sunshine_Speaks. Instagram is Sunshine_2 Speaks. Facebook, Sunshine Speaks. So when we have the conversation of the traditional relationships and the traditional roles in relationships and where we are now in 2022, how did we get to this point of where women feel like they don't need a man and men feel like they don't need a woman? What has happened in the last 50, 60 years? You always hear people say, well, you know, what happened to the marriages of our grandparents' generation? How come people don't stay together anymore? And the thing is, life has changed. The economy has changed. People have changed. Family dynamics have changed. So if you don't take into account the different changes that have happened and how it's actually affecting our roles in relationships and what we actually need from each other, there's just going to continue to be a whole lot of arguing. So for centuries upon centuries upon centuries, men have been taught you're supposed to protect and provide. In exchange for that, a woman gave you children and she took care of the home and she basically kept you comfortable. Because in years before, a woman lived under her father's protection, under her father's covering, until she got married and then another man took over because women were not allowed to work. So in exchange for that man's protection and covering, the woman bore his children, cleaned the house, cooked for that man, and she basically catered to the man and served that man. So here we are in 2022, and because of various things, we don't even have to get into all the different things that have happened, because what matters is where we're at right now. So where we're at right now in 2022, women have the ability to provide for themselves. Women have the ability to protect themselves. Women have the ability and the capabilities to do almost just about anything that a man can do. And so now when you have relationships, whereas previously the woman provided those things for that man in return for his protection and for that financial stability, now that women are able to give that to themselves, women are saying, okay, but I don't need you for that anymore. So you still want these things from me. You still want me to have your children. You still want me to cook. You still want me to clean. You still want me to do things for you. But I don't need you to necessarily protect and provide for me. So what am I getting in exchange for me cooking and cleaning and doing all of those other things for you? So we have to look at what has actually happened over time. Because when we were in those older days, because women had to be with a man for her survival, a woman she wasn't able to put any type of priority on what really mattered to her. Because the same value that men place on respect, on being respected and being shown respect, that's the same value that a woman places on her emotions and emotional security. So for a woman, emotional security is the safe space. A man that can create a safe space and allows a woman to express her emotions, to be vulnerable without fear of being dismissed or shamed or ridiculed. To be shown care and concern for her emotions, because we are emotional creatures. And yes, a woman is responsible for knowing how to express her emotions respectfully, but it doesn't change the fact that women are emotional creatures. And what a woman really needs out of the relationship, what she values more than anything, is a man that knows how to properly respect her emotions. So now here we are in this day and age where men are still being taught to protect and provide, because this is what men have always been told. But because those older women, they married for survival, but a lot of them actually resented their husbands. And so in return, they told their daughters, you don't need a man. Don't depend on a man, because that older woman actually despised that man. So she was trying to help her daughters by telling her, you don't need a man. Don't put yourself in a position to have to depend on a man. And unfortunately, a lot of women are still getting that message today. And it doesn't have to be that way, because the reason why they were getting that message before is because grandma wasn't able to leave. Prior to 1970, you had to prove fault to get a divorce. It was very hard for a woman to prove fault and leave her husband. So she had no choice but to stay. And then many women didn't have the financial means to leave their husband. So they had to stay and tolerate a lot of things. And this is why they tell the younger women, don't get a man. This is also why they tell younger women to get a man with money. Because in that day and age, if I'm not able to place any priority on my emotions, if I just have to take whatever, because I'm dependent upon you for my survival, and I have to give you children and clean your home and cook for you and basically serve you, then of course I'm going to serve the man that is able to provide me with the best and the easiest lifestyle. So this is why women are told to get a man with money. All of this comes from a previous time, but old advice is still being given in a modern day where it doesn't necessarily apply anymore. Because in this day and age, we are all adults and we are able to do for ourselves. Women are not being held back anymore. Women are able to go to work. They're able to make just as much money as men, sometimes more. They're able to own businesses. They own land. Women are able to do the same things that men can do. And I asked the question on Facebook and on my TikTok. I asked the question and I asked men, what do you think the benefit is for a woman to get married or enter a relationship? And men I got a lot of the same answers. The men said to protect, to provide, to start a family, legacy, handyman skills. And see, when men say those things, what women hear, to protect, I don't necessarily need you to protect me, right? Because I can hire a security service if I really needed to, alarm systems, trained to carry. So when women hear, well, protect, I don't necessarily need a man to do that. I'm capable of doing that in this day and age. Provide, I don't necessarily need a man to do that for me. I'm capable of doing that in this day and age. Have a family. A lot of women, when men say have a family, for a woman, she's like, okay, so I have to put my body through sometimes changes that are irreversible. So I have to deal with irreversible changes to my body. I know that once I have a child from my man, I have to prepare for the fact that there is the possibility that I will be left as a single mother. And it's not always due to a man just leaving. I mean, we're talking about death. Anything can happen. So when you have a child for somebody, you always have to prepare for the fact that you might be left as the only person raising that child. And typically, women do more of the child care and housework. So when a man says, okay, building a family, women hear, that sounds like work to me. When a man says legacy, well, that's your name that's being carried on. That's your legacy that's being carried on. So that's not something that women value. When a man says handyman skills, well, in this day and age, I can hire somebody to do all those services for me. So the things that men are used to providing, or the things that men needed to provide in a previous era, they are not a priority in this day and age. Whereas before, women needed those things for survival, women don't need those things from a man anymore for survival. So now women are able to put that priority on what it is that they really need and want, which is the emotional security. And a lot of men have not been taught. They don't know what that looks like, and they don't know how to provide it because you were never taught. Now, on the flip side, because of all of this, and because men only know what they've been taught from previous years, men are still seeking to provide those things that they've always been taught they're supposed to provide. But at the same time, because of the kickback from so many women, men are saying, okay, but I don't need you to cook for me. I don't need you to clean for me. I can hire somebody to do that. I don't need sex from you. I can hire somebody for that too. Same way how women say they can get a toy for that. So what men are needing, men are saying, hey, we need to be respected. We need to feel respected by you. We need to feel appreciated by you. We also need a safe space to be vulnerable and to be able to open up and share my emotions without fear of ridicule or having it thrown in my face. But what the difference is when it comes to men and women is the way that we express and the way that we receive. So there are some men that say like, hey, yeah, I do cater to her emotions. But the way that some of these men are catering to a woman's emotions is the way that you would want yours catered to, not the way a woman needs hers catered to. You're trying to provide a safe space, but you're doing it in a way that you would need it and not in a way that a woman would need it. And yes, I do understand that, of course, there's going to be specifics when it comes to each person. But generally speaking, everybody, male or female, wants to feel safe, wants to feel heard, wants to feel understood, wants to feel like the person that they love, they can be their true, authentic selves with. But the way that a woman creates a safe space for a man and the way that a man has to create a safe space for a woman is two different ways. And that's the problem here, is in this day and age, nobody knows how to navigate that because all anybody really knows is what they were taught from a time that no longer exists. And you can't apply old habits to a new day, because it's not going to work. As we see, looking out over society, it doesn't work. And if you are somebody that wants a completely traditional man, well, you can't be a fully modern woman wanting a traditional man. A traditional man is going to want a fully traditional woman. And that goes both ways. You can't be a fully modern man wanting a traditional woman. Either you're going to get a completely modern woman, or there's going to be compromise and you're going to have a mixture of tradition and what society is today. But either way, every relationship has to find what works for them. But until we start to recognize that what each side and what the gender roles used to be and why they existed at that point in time don't necessarily fit into today's society, it's going to be a continuous argument. Times have changed. This is not the 1950s. This is not the 1960s. Women do not have to stay at home anymore with the children, and a lot of women don't want to. Women are able to contribute to the household. Men don't necessarily have to pay all of the bills anymore unless that's something that he wants to do. But also remember that we can get there twice as fast together. So if your goal is to have a true partnership, if your goal is to be able to have an authentic relationship where you can be yourself with somebody, the good, the bad, and the ugly, show them every pain that you've ever had and have no fear to do so. If the goal is to be able to build your life with somebody like that, then you have to get out of your own way and you have to take a step back, and you're going to have to look at this from both sides, because we're not living in the same world anymore. The rules have changed, and you have to stop trying to apply old rules to a new game, because y'all are failing out here. You're failing. There's time for change. Things have to change if we're going to make progress.